Welcome to the CITIUS Mag podcast. I'm Chris Chavez.
And I'm David Melly.
On this week's show, we had some fast times thrown down in Lievin, France, where we saw several world-leading performances and a world record fall. We're going to spend much of our time previewing the USATF Indoor Championships taking place this weekend in New Mexico, and the World Athletics Cross Country Championships in Bathurst, Australia, also taking place this weekend. And if you're looking for a recap of the Millrose Games, you can find that already on your podcast feed from our After the Final Lap episode that we recorded and broadcast from the Armory. You can also watch it on our YouTube channel. Josh Kerr joined us after throwing down a nice 7:33 for 3K. David, what did you make of Millrose Games? You split some time. You were watching from afar, but then at the same time, you were at BU getting caught up in just sub 4 after sub 4 after sub 4. So how was your weekend?
It was fantastic. I thought Millrose was a great event overall. I mean, it's so funny because I spend so much time doing, the social stuff for CITIUS that sometimes I feel like I don't absorb the meat. So I actually really appreciated listening to the post show the next day because I felt like it let me, appreciate as a fan, not just like as someone trying to cover the sport. And also just Hodgkinson's enthusiasm for everything is extremely infectious. And I could listen to her recap races till the sun goes down. But I mean, it was a fantastic meet, and I feel like I'm going back to my takes from the last time I was on, but there's no reason that you can't run fast and have great racing. It was like totally the best of both worlds, and it just made me so happy to see.
So that was BU and Millrose Games. Millrose was just, it's always the best indoor meet of the year. Before we get into all of the latest, we have to thank our sponsors. This week, I'm drinking the Olipop Classic Root Beer. It's definitely one of my favorite flavors. We had athletes drinking Olipop at the Armory this past weekend. Their new lemon lime flavor got delivered the morning of the Millrose Games, so I had some of that out there. Josh Kerr seemed to have really liked it. So we're really revolutionizing the game here and making Olipop the runner soda. I love getting tagged in people's Instagram stories. I love the reviews that we're getting on Twitter. Actually, we had someone tweet at us, and then Olipop responded saying, I'm forwarding this to our marketing manager. So thanks a lot to everyone who has gone out of their way to give it a shot. It's delicious. Olipop is a prebiotic soda with 2 to 5 grams of sugar. That's really good for your gut health. And of course, it's delicious. Use code CITIUS25 for 25% off non-subscription orders. Learn more at drinkolipop.com, or you can also click the link in the description in our show notes for the promotional discount code. So check them out today, drinkolipop.com. We're also presented by New Balance. Push yourself to go the distance. Get the gear that helps you get the job done. Right now, for me, it's the Fuel Cell Super Comp Elite version 3s. I did a 10-mile run the other day in them. Today, I put them on. Got out for 7 miles as well. I know there's people say save them for race day, but I just love the ride. You're bouncy. It's soft. Check them. They just dropped on February 1st. Get your hands on them. Honestly, consider them for race day. They're fantastic. You've run a couple workouts. I
just worked out about an hour ago in the V2s and had a fantastic workout. And this is a testament to their quality, that those shoes have probably 200 miles on them, which is about the most that I've ever gotten out of a shoe with a carbon plate. And so they have definitely done their work and then some for me. I had a fantastic progression run, feeling good, feeling ready to hop into this next buildup, and definitely going to be keeping the New Balance in the rotation, and not just for my personal relationship bias.
You need to get your hands on the V3s. So maybe if someone out there from
I have I was gonna say my roommate has a hookup, so I think I'll get a pair soon.
All right, let's move into what's been most recent, which was just a couple hours ago, the World Indoor Tour meet in France. in Lievin, France, wrapped up, and we saw world leading performances from Jakob Ingebrigtsen, Keely, Hodgkinson. I believe, who else is there? Gudaf Sagai also ran 3:56 for the 1500.
She ran a crazy first 800 and paid for it in the second half, but it was cool to see her go for it.
A lot of big names at this meet, but I guess the performance that a lot of people are really kind of wowed by right now is the world record that fell, which was the men's indoor 3K world record. Before today, it was Daniel Komen's, which had stood since, I believe, 1998, 7:24.90. And Lamecha Girma from Ethiopia just snuck under 7:23.81. He wasn't the only one either, because Mohamed Katir from Spain finished second in 7:24.68 for a European record. Again, kind of to your point, David, that you brought up before, sometimes quality racing leads to record-breaking fast times, and that's what we saw today in Lievin, France. Honestly, kind of nuts, because now, if we think about it, Daniel Komen's records have stood for a long time. Outdoors now, for 3K, I believe Komen and El Garouge are the only two people
going.
Yeah, we need some 3Ks outdoors, because this was Girma is someone who has medals from the steeplechase, and so now when we could see what he does in a flat race, it really gets you excited. Honestly, for me, it's makes me wonder how much he's going to be able to close the gap on someone like El Bakali in the actual steeplechase race when they go up against hurdles and barriers again. But a really impressive performance. For you, I guess, David, you caught some of the highlights afterwards. What really stood out to you from Lievin?
Oh, baby, I am hype for Jakob versus Yared in that 1500 in a couple of weeks, because obviously you never expect Jakob to not be in shape and not be ready to party, but watching him, run completely solo in that 1500 today, like I was just picturing the goose right on his shoulder and then busting out that last lap. Like, I can't wait to see those two go head to head. That's going to be so fun.
Yeah. So today, Jakob ran 3:32. I believe his season opener, and Yared split 3:33 in the middle of his 3:47 mile at Millrose Games. Yared is slated to run the 1500 at the Madrid meet next week. Jakob is at that meet as well, but entered in the 3K. I don't know who we have to plead to make the change. It's got to
get somebody to move down.
Honestly, it's Jakob's move at this point to see, hey, don't duck Yared Nagus. I was actually kind of laughing because we had a new correspondent in Lievin. Her name is Alicia. She was getting us some mixed zone interviews, and we told her, kind of, Kyle and I were on a WhatsApp group with her. We're just like, hey, Jakob is a priority for sure. His interviews are always very entertaining, and she managed to get the interview, and we said to her, you have to ask like what he thought of Yared Nagus's mile at the Millrose Games, and luckily, there was someone else in the mix who would ask, like, you see this rise in competition from the United States, do you pay attention to that kind of stuff? And he said, yeah, he dropped good for the sport that we have, other people improving and getting better in training, little tiny slight, it's not badly intended by Jakob, but like, you can always kind of take like these little digs when you're the Olympic gold medalist in the event. But he closed out the interview by saying, he's like, I'm still the best. And I'd like to see him back that up by dropping down to the 1500 in Madrid, so that we can see him versus Yared go head to head. Those two have, I don't believe, ever raced against each other, because for Yared, the only times that he's qualified for a world team are the Olympics in 21. He gets there and he gets hurt, so he doesn't run. And then last year, he doesn't have the season that he wants, so he doesn't qualify for world champs. So we really haven't seen Yared Nagus at the global stage. And so Yared versus Jakob, give it to us in Madrid. And I don't know if you can say I'm still the best if Yared just takes down the record, which I believe is 331 that Jakob ran last year. So I'm just so fired up for this matchup. I want it sooner rather than later. I don't want to have to wait until Budapest for these guys to show down. In the comment section right now on our Instagram post is definitely kind of prodding. I hope it's intended to prod at Jakob. Kind of scrolling through and maybe sees that he's tagged in this in the comment section. Very pro Yared, but we have a heavy US audience, so that's part of it too.
Well, I'm sure he's a dedicated coffee club listener, so he'll probably hear what those guys have to say this week. I mean, honestly, if Yared wants to move up to the 3K, I'm fine with that too. Like, I just think those guys are so well matched. And one of the things I think is interesting is just, when you look at the races that Jakob has lost, he's not like a blazing fast last 150 kind of guy. He's a tighten the screws kind of runner. And when guys like Jake Whiteman or at the World Indoor Champs,
Samuel Tefera, yep.
When they've taken him down, it's because if Jakob can't drop him and they got that, that last 200, last 150, those kind of top end speed,
the extra squeeze.
It's hard to say Jakob has a weakness because I think that might be an exaggeration. But if he has any vulnerability, that's it. Is if somebody is right on his tail that late in the race, he can get beat. So I'd just love to see it. 15, 3K. I don't care any distance. Let's just put him head to head.
The other key performance that I really enjoyed seeing was Keely Hodgkinson running 157 and then afterwards being pretty bummed out. I mean, she was half a second away from her own British record. And I don't know, it doesn't feel like it was a couple of years ago that a British woman running 157 would be disappointing, but that's just kind of the level of an athlete that Keely is right now. And it leaves you wondering, like, Keely races so much during the indoor season and into the early outdoor season that she shows her cards. And what we're left wondering is, like, what is Athing Mu doing this entire time to be ready for the big moment? And we know that Athing has done this before where it's like when she races, she's going to be at her best. But seeing what we saw at the World Championships last year, where she was being pushed basically to the finish line against Keely, and Keely already showing that she's leveled up by breaking the world indoor record in the 600 in the it was a 600 and now just consistently being in that one sub 159 range. It gets you pumped, but just you're left with question marks. Is like, what is Athing doing out in LA right now?
Here's the thing. I love Athing.
Here's the thing about Athing.
She shouted me out in the CITIUS Valentine's Day cards. She's a friend of the brand. We're big fans of Athing, but like, she's on that Bobby Kersey race schedule right now. We're not going to see her till July. Like, what I want to see is 600 meters, Keely versus Femke. That's the race I would love. Like, I don't know, meet organizers out there, like, I'm doing your work for you, but like, let's get that head to head. I think that would be so cool to watch.
Yeah, I think it's more likely too that we would get that. I thought you were going to say something like Keely versus Sydney in a 600, which I would like to see that as well.
Again, you're hoping for a lot of racing from Bobby Kersey athletes. Let's not get ahead of ourselves. They know what to do. They deliver when the time comes. But for the indoor season, yeah, I'm all in on Bull versus Hodgkinson. I think that would be so cool. They're at the same meet. They could have just, doubled back and just done it.
What else do we have in Lievin taking place? We saw Karsten Warholm win in a meet record 45.51 for the 400. Afterwards, Alicia asked Karsten whether he was going to be chasing the European record in the 400 outdoors, which is 44 point something. And like, it's doable, but it's just a matter of Karsten likes just racing the 400 hurdles when he gets outdoors. And so, if he gives it a couple shots, I don't think that's beyond him. So something to look out for. we had Femke Bol follow up her sub 50 performance with a meet record of 50.20 in the 400. She's getting ready for the European Championships. And actually, funny enough, we actually could see Femke versus Keely in the 4x4 at the European Indoor Championships if Keely is considered by British athletics to be put onto that relay, which I'd love for them to wake up and be just like, hey, put her on the
she
relay.
Could run lead off and anchor if they wanted her to. Like that, I don't see why not.
Yeah. So maybe you do get your wish over 400 meters, and it could take place at the European Championships. We don't have a World Indoor Championships this year because it was set to take place in China, I believe, and then COVID plans canceled all of that because of their lockdown restrictions. So for at least for the European track stars, they have Euros to look forward to, which we're going to talk about a little bit as to just like how not having World Indoors has impacted US Indoor Championships this year, because it's taken a lot of the top stars out of the equation. So in the men's pole vault in Lievin, we saw Mondo Duplantis win with a 6.01 clearance. Miltiades Tentuglu had jumped the world lead 8.41 meters in the men's long jump. I think there was an instance where he jumped something and then like got DQ'd for wearing the wrong type of spikes, the same thing that we saw with Yulimar Rojas. So they're still kind of figuring that whole thing out.
How are they? Like, what are they checking your feet after you compete? When I was in high school, you had to go get a little dot on your spike at check-in. Like, this is not an unsolvable problem here. Let's get it together, Europe.
Well, what you were joking about is actually true, because I was standing next to Josh Kerr, and there's a guy who his job is he walks around with a list of all the World Athletics approved spikes, and you have to tell him what make and model of the spikes you're wearing, and he kind of I think he takes a photograph if he does of them, just because there's a lot of people running in prototypes that have gotten approved like the week before or whatever it might be.
How I feel about that.
Yeah, so I mean, like, you joke, but that's exactly the system. We're discovering so many things afterwards. One last thing to kind of note from Lievin was that Grant Fisher was there. He raced. He was a big American star competing there, and he finished 5th in the men's 3K in 7:35.82, which is an indoor personal best, but he was very disappointed in himself. He wanted to be up with the leaders, but he finishes 12 seconds back, which is quite a bit in a race like this. He was bummed out in the interview afterwards, didn't travel all that way, but what we are going to see is he's going to run the 1500, I believe, in Spain. So I think Yared and Grant Fisher will be in the same race. Now let's get Jakob in it.
Jakob, let's move down. Let's make it happen.
All right, so let's talk about the U.S. Indoor Championships taking place this weekend in Albuquerque, New Mexico. It starts on Thursday. You can stream that, I believe, on USATF TV. The only time it'll be broadcast nationally on TV will be Saturday at 4 p.m. on NBC. You can also stream it on Peacock that day. First off, kudos to Noah Lyles for being kind of just like the major star competing at this meet. The most amount of prize, the top first place at the USATF Indoor Championships gets you $6,000. Obviously, Noah Lyles' contract is so much bigger than that. And so what we have is we have 3 guys who are in the top 5 right now in the men's 60 worldwide. That's Christian Coleman and Trayvon Bermel, guys who have won World Indoors in this event. Noah Lyles has never competed at the world stage in this event, has been running super well, ran a personal best of 6.51 at New Balance just a couple weeks ago, and he's the only top star that's declared for this. Noah is someone who definitely just loves the spotlight and is okay with putting USA track and field basically on his shoulders for this meet to bring some eyeballs. And so He's the only one declared. He's probably going to win. We saw Trayvon Bromell throw down a really nasty, what was it, 6.47 or something like that.
Mhm.
Now the biggest bummer of this whole situation is going to be as if Noah runs like 6.48 or something like that, and we are just robbed of both Coleman and Lyles and Bromell all in the same race. Just I don't know, like they get the best out of themselves when they go head to head. Coleman was on the fence about running indoors. Trayvon was also kind of considering it at one point. In the end, we only end up with one, and this is not surprising. We saw this a lot when Usain Bolt was around. The top stars ducking each other. That might be for other reasons, because Bolt always commanded a massive appearance fee, and it's hard to afford, some of the other guys in the race. But I mean, yeah, it's gonna be Noah Lyles running away with it, and beyond that, like Katie Moon in the pole vault, Chase Ely in the shot put, Aleia Hobbs. Kudos to the women in the 60. They're showing up. You've got Aleia Hobbs, Makia Briscoe, Mary Beth St. Price, who, there's 2 medalists from Worlds last year, all coming back. They're bringing the show from Millrose Games last week to New Mexico this week. Yeah, you can't fault the top stars for not showing up, because there is no world indoor team and there isn't a lot of money in this.
See, here's where I do fault it a little bit in the sprints is I get it, from a prize money standpoint. And, I do a little bit understand from the distance races,
It's
if
running
you're
at
not just
altitude.
adjusted to racing at altitude. But see, my thing is like, if you're a sprinter, let's go to altitude and get some PRs. Let's get some record bonuses, like if anything, you'd think they would be itching at the opportunity to race in Albuquerque. Like there's definitely money there if you're fit and chasing, something pretty fast. And, clearly, I mean, the women came to play. Like Alicia Johnson is in the 60 hurdles. That you just talked about the women's 60 being stacked. There's definitely, it's not this universal thing that nobody cares about US indoors. Like there are certain events that are, just as stacked, and it's not like universally weak across the board. The
You
women's
dug
shot
up the
put.
number, right? Like you dug up the number of how many US number ones are competing at this meet.
Yeah, so I only looked at the track races, but it was only 3 of the 12 US leaders this year in the event are showing up. And to me, like that says something too, where, it's one thing if you're like, okay, I'm not going to race indoor at all. Like I'm getting ready for outdoor. I do kind of understand and respect that. But if you've already shown like, 2 weeks ago that like you're fit and ready to race, like why not just throw one more in the calendar, and, again, we're talking a lot about the track, but shout out to the field events too. Like the pole vault, it's Chris Nielsen, it's Casey Lightfoot, it's Sam Kendricks. The women's shot put, it's Maggie Ewan, it's Chase Ely. Like some of these events are just as stacked up top as they will be at US Outdoors. So it's certainly, you can't paint with a broad brush and say like nobody's showing up to this. It's disappointing that some people are passing it by just because, maybe the prize money isn't what it was.
We'll run through a couple of the events. The most intriguing and what, like, I hate to say it, like easiest title to possibly win is going to be like the 400 titles. We have Anna Hall, who is competing in the pentathlon over the course while she's there. Has, I think, maybe the best shot of coming away with the US 400 meter title. And then you've got Trevor Bassett coming out of the clouds, friend of CITIUS Mag, hasn't run an indoor race so far, is going to open and close his indoor season with the men's 400. And he's also got a really good shot of winning that. So, I mean, those are 2 areas where you have some of these athletes coming and be like, you know what? I'll take the $6,000. Like it's you'll get it paid in a couple of months, but like it's worth it. The other and on the distance side of things, on the men's side, a lot of question marks in this, because Cole Hocker pulls out of Millrose Games with, I believe, like an Achilles Just a precautionary move on his Achilles, just wasn't feeling all that great once he had gotten there and stepped onto the armored track. If he's not 100%, then you also have to look at some of these other names in the race, a Sam Prakel, a Drew Hunter, to possibly be in contention for both the 15 or the 3K titles. You spoke with David Ribich for your podcast this week, and he's also a name who ran really well at BU and has been coming on strong this season. A lot of guys with the chance to win a U.S. title and get that kind of that bonus that they may have in their contract.
Yeah, and it's a testament to, we shouldn't discount the fact that if Cole, if it really was, just a tweak, and he was just playing it safe, Cole Hocker last time he was at USA's absolutely ran the table in the 15 and 3K. Like, it wasn't even a competition. And so if he's in that kind of form, I think he'll be the pretty heavy favorite in that. I think the thing that is interesting, particularly in the distance races, is two factors that you don't necessarily see at a Olympic trials or a US outdoor champs. One is the straight final for the distance races. So the 15 and the 3K are just straight finals. I tend to think that that helps a little more of like the speed oriented distance runners, because you're not, you don't have to, run on tired legs in the prelim. There's no rabbits, obviously, because it's a championship. So guys that have that kind of, really sharp kick, or ladies that have that really sharp kick, have, certainly the advantage there. And then the altitude factor is always, one. Albuquerque's like, it's like 5,500 feet or something like that. Like, it's not crazy high. So, looking at folks like, Chrissy Gear coming down from Flagstaff, or, some of those Boulder, Sage Herdeklecker coming from Boulder, like folks that are actually coming down in altitude to race, are certainly going to have the advantage in terms of just being accustomed to it versus, some of the East Coast or the sea level folks who, are very, that might feel a little worse for them relatively.
One other plus, I guess, for the U.S. Championships is sometimes when you do have like a top star like an Aleia Monson in the race, it's sort of like you go into it thinking like, man, right now she's head and shoulders above everyone else. That it's like you end up being, fascinated and drawn to just the clinic that she's putting on, and you lose sight of the battle for second and third. And we're going to be able to pay a little bit closer attention to that because she's not entered in the women's 3K. So this is an event that I, will probably try and watch live. You've got Whittni Morgan, who has run really well against Aleia Monson at the Dr. Sander Invitational in the mile, and then again in the 3K at the Millrose Games. Now without her, this could be a nice little reward, is what I'm kind of getting at. For it's like you put in all this hard work, you've come away with 2 runner-up finishes. Aleia Monson is not here. Take care of business. You've got a U.S. title possibly in your hands, but it's not going to be easy. She's going to have, the likes of Ellie Hennis, who maybe didn't run as tactically strong of a race last week by going out with Elise Cranny and Monson, and maybe would alter things a little bit. Here's a chance to do that over again. And Emily Mackey or McKay, how do you pronounce that one?
I asked her before I interviewed her the other week. It's Mackay.
Mackay. All right. Well, she's coming on well too. She ran well at BU.
Yeah, and she ran that 840, like making a hard move and not being challenged, with 600 meters to go. So like I definitely like the looks of her to, really be up there factoring for the win. Like, I think she can go even faster than that 840 seed.
So for me, I guess like the women's 3K will probably be a race to watch. Is there any other one that for you stands out as like, oh, all right, you know what, that one is intriguing to me?
Yeah, the women's 1500 I think is also going to be really cool. I think, it's going to be fun seeing Nikki Hiltz and Sage Herdeklecker. I think there's a couple of these NAZ runners could really kind of factor in as well. And another event that really is, pretty stacked up top that we haven't talked about yet is the men's 800. We got Bryce Hoppel, we got Isaiah Harris, we got Shane Strike. Like that's going to be Clayton Murphy.
Murphy.
We got definitely a pretty good crew there. So I'm excited to see how those guys factor in, especially in a 800 where there's no pacer. It's always interesting. It can get pretty tied up, pretty physical. Who's going to take it out? Like I think that could be one to watch as well.
All right, so that is the USATF Indoor Championships. Starts on Thursday. We will have some photos coming out of it, so stay tuned to the CITIUS Mag Instagram for some results and breakout performances that we'll recap there. We've got the World Cross Country Championships also taking place. Starts at 11:30 p.m. Eastern Time on Friday. You can stream it on Peacock. It's going to be held at Mount Panorama Circuit in Bathurst, Australia. It's going to be a 2K loop course, I believe. People will be running through a vineyard at times. You're going to have to be careful and look for some kangaroos that have been known to be and spotted in the area. We've seen the viral videos of cross-country races being interrupted by deer. Maybe we get that with a kangaroo. Hot temperatures in the forecast. It's going to be quite the sufferfest.
Yeah, it's not as hilly as the our house one, but it definitely from what I could tell of the course tour, like there's no shade too, so they're going to be feeling the heat, like they're going to be baking on the course out there, and it's definitely going to be not the easiest conditions to run cross country in for sure, especially folks that maybe haven't run a 10K in a little while, or maybe haven't run they've been training in the northern hemisphere, they haven't run in hot temperatures in a while. It's going to be a rude awakening for sure.
Some heavy star power atop both the races. In the men's senior race, Joshua Cheptegei's in it, Jacob Kiplimo, Salomon Barega, Barihu Aragawi, Joffrey Kamor, Kibawat Candy. So the East African presence is really going to be strong. Uganda is probably like the team to watch. I really got to give massive props to Joshua Cheptegei for showing up to this race. When people at the end of their careers look at Eliud Kipchoge's resume, Kenenisa Bekele's resume, Haile Gebrselassie resume, and you start to embark upon the greatest of all time bar conversation, what Bekele has going for him is the world cross country titles. And Joshua Cheptegei, yes, over time, the world cross country championships aren't what they used to be, but it's nice to see that someone like Cheptegei is treating it as such, because he wants to possibly add another gold medal to that illustrious resume that he already has. So I'm particularly excited to see him try and win it all. It's not, again, I kind of always bring it up where it's not going to be easy, because it's so deep. For him, his biggest competitor is probably his compatriot Jacob Kiplimo, who's beat him before. He did that at the World Half Marathon Championships. The two guys know each other pretty well. So I don't know. At the very top of the race, Cheptegei is the guy to watch, and I think a lot of people will be keying off of him. Although you can never sleep on Joffrey Kamor. Hasn't looked as strong as he's come back from injuries. He had that incident a couple of years ago where he got banged up with a motorcycle while on a run, and he hasn't, like, he was always propped up to be like the heir to Eliud Kipchoge on the marathon in the marathon, and that is not going to happen, it seems like. But he's carved his own way, winning 2 world cross country titles in the past. That, yeah, you put this guy on some dirt and some hills, he's going to be a force to be reckoned with.
Yeah, I'm fascinated by Kamor. I think it really is. It's hard to talk about wasted potential with a guy as good as he's been, but obviously the past couple of years of injuries have definitely kind of slowed him down on the roads. But world cross, like, it really is a different beast. And the fact that he is, as far as I know, the only 2-time champ in the field, that says something. And it says something about his ability to, run different kinds of courses and thrive at them. And, obviously Cheptegei, if they turn everybody around to put them on a 10,000 meter track right now, it's hard to bet against Cheptegei, but anything can happen in cross country. And it would be so interesting to see, Kim Ward return to the top of his game, because I think, we talk about this, this frustration of, oh, what could have been, but, in a way, if he shows up on Saturday or Friday night Eastern, and just absolutely blows away the field, like, to me, that completely reignites the conversation of, like, is Kimura back, and what can he really do full with a couple of years of full healthy training under him. One of the things I think is awesome about the field, particularly in the men's side, is, like, we have definitely this kind of attitude in the US of, like, cross country is more analogous to the 5K 10K type racers, but there's a lot of really good half marathoners in this race, and guys that we don't see them lining up against the really good track 10K guys super often, because they're mostly picking up paychecks on the road. So it'll be fun to see, kind of, again, I feel like the theme of this podcast is, like, unusual head-to-head matchups, but, like, guys like Kibawat Candy, like, throwing down with Joshua Cheptegei, like, you don't see that every day. And it is interesting. I was looking up, I was surprised to learn the last time Kenya took the team title was 2011. So they got a little bit of a drought going. And, based on how strong the Ethiopian and Ugandan teams are, like, they have to be considered the underdogs. But, when you think about historically, like, who's really performed in these settings, it creates a fun narrative for the Kenyan team to say, like, oh, can they reset the balance of things in this race, and I'll be interested to see if they can.
The guy to watch on that Kenyan team, and I'm glad you brought them up, is Sebastian Sawe, I believe is his name. He won the Kenyan cross country trials. I think last year was really the first year that he ever popped up onto anyone's radar. He ran 58:02 for the half marathon, but it was, like, on a point-to-point course. He beat Kibawat Candy in a 1 hour world record attempt. So, this is someone who just kind of remember that name. We've been in this phase, I guess, over the last couple of years where the tide just turns really quick on some of these top Kenyan stars. It's like they have 1 or 2 good years, and then it's on into the next guy. And it's very different from maybe the early 2010s, where you had your core of, like, these are the 3 or 4 or 5 really good guys. I think, like, Kenya is just, like, really strong right now in terms of just, like, there's probably, like, 10 guys at that trials who would be very strongly suited to make most other countries' national teams. And so for this time around, Sebastian Sawe is the guy who has broken out. So keep an eye on him. Just a dark horse name to throw out there. So that's the men's side. How bummed are you, I guess, to, like, this week we had Jakob and Grant Fisher racing in Lievin, France, opted not to do World Cross Country Championships. Yes, I guess you can argue that someone like Grant, with Jerry as his coach, Jerry might think, oh, there's more injury risk, running cross country. But I guess you did a little bit more digging and reading and pointed something else out, where it's like, on the American side, like, you're less incentivized to run some of these cross country races.
Yeah. So, one of the things to note is that you can no longer qualify for worlds in the track 10,000 with just one finish. So it used to be that you could get top 15 at World Cross was considered an auto qualifier for the track 10K. And, historically speaking, like, the US team has not been, like, super up there in contention for the win, but, like, top 15 has not been a stretch, for some of the guys that have been on this team in the past. And when you think about your Leonard Careers, your Shadrack Kipchirchers, guys that could really thrive on the cross country setting and kind of notch that. You head down to Australia, you get your 14th place finish, and you're set till trials. Like, that definitely was an appeal. And this year they're doing it all on ranking, and to have a world cross country ranking, you have to have 3 races. Your top 3 races are considered part of your ranking, and so it really biases towards international racing and having truly a full cross country season at a time when most American pros at least aren't really focusing on cross country.
This is Kyle's whole point. It's like Americans should just spend their fall jumping into all of the Spanish cross country races.
I mean, why not? Like, especially, I mean, I want to qualify this a little bit by saying that, like, there's definitely a factor here of, the US is strong enough at this point in time in the 10K that 27:10 is a fast standard. But, like, if you're going to be a factor at Worlds, like, you got to be able to run a 27:10 10K. And so, some of these guys are looking at their schedule and they're thinking, California is a shorter flight than Australia, so I'm going to go head over to the Sound Running meet and get my qualifier there. But, it definitely, for a guy who's looking at that 27:10 thinking, like, I don't know if I can get there. Like, you do see the appeal of putting together like a little mini cross season and seeing what happens. But yeah, it definitely changes the dynamics, and it explains why, some of the folks, I always remember the year when Bowerman Track Club sent like their whole women's team to just like absolutely, make a show out of US Cross, and how that was kind of really fun because you don't see it that often. And it's a shame that the incentives changing have kind of left the US based cross runners at least out to dry a little bit. But it is what it is. And certainly internationally, it hasn't stopped folks from racing cross and from showing up ready to play.
All right, so let's move on to the women's race. The big star in this one is Letizia Gidey as the headliner. The half marathon world record holder declared that she was going to run World Cross, I believe, at the end of last year, which just was very exciting for fans all around the world, because she debuted in the marathon, didn't go as well as she'd hoped. Which is kind of crazy to say because she ran 2:16:49 in Valencia. A lot of people would say that's a pretty successful debut, but she wanted to break the world record in her first time out. I mean, she has every ounce of belief to think that she can do that, because her PR in the half marathon is 62:52. So now we get to see her over a cross country course. She competed at the U20 race back in 2017, but has never won a major world cross country title. So this would be a first for her. She finished 3rd last time that this whole entire championship was contested in 2019. We haven't had a world cross since then because of the pandemic. So this would be a nice little rebound for her. The other people to really watch in this one, I would say Beatrice Chebet, world championship silver medalist in 5K. So that's from Kenya, another strong runner. You got Francine Niyonsaba, who has really taken super well to the longer distances after the World Athletics regulations on women with naturally high levels of testosterone were implemented. She has an Olympic silver medal in the 800, and said, all right, well, I'm going to have to move up to the 3K or the 5K or the 10K. And we've seen her have this success last year in particular over the 2-mile distance. So now, she raced one of the cross country meets in Spain earlier this year, I believe. And so she's got a chance at this title. So this one is less so. I think it's just Gidey's race to lose, and it's going to be up to one of those 2 other women to break through. I am on the US side of things, I am very intrigued to see how high up Edna Kurgat could end up, or a Whitney Kaladi if she has managed to get fully healthy again, because that those are Team USA's biggest hopes for a top 10 finish or something like that.
Yeah, and I think one of the things to also mourn a little bit is we're missing Helen O'Beary. We're missing, even Faith Kipyegon, who everyone knows as a miler, has done some cross in the past, and it would be cool to see either those women throw down with Gide, but I think it'll just be cool to watch somebody who's really at the peak of her game right now go after it, and I think it'll be interesting to see who is able to go with her. I think a lot of the advantage of having a little bit more of a wide open race behind her is that you might get sort of a sneak peek on who might be the up and coming stars for the next track season. One of the names that, I'll be honest, I was not familiar with until I was researching this race is Rahel Daniel from Eritrea, who was like 5th in the World
10K
Championships in the 10K. She was only 20 years old last year. She's only 21 now, but she's run 14:36 and 30:12 in the last year. And you think about someone like her who had that kind of breakthrough personally, but maybe not breakthrough in terms of like international hardware last season. Like, what we could be witnessing is like a true star on the rise, and races like World Cross this weekend could be an indicator of that. And when come Budapest, when she's a household name and one of the favorites in the 10K or something like that, we'll have seen her now and kind of be in the know. So I'm excited to see kind of what folks like that, who maybe are a little less proven but are improving rapidly, can do on this global stage.
Yeah, I'm just doing a really quick search right now to see if anyone from Eritrea has ever won the title. Not on the women's side, but Zersane Tadesse, the longtime half marathon star, was the last Eritrean star to do it. They've had a pretty solid showing on the men's side, at least like as a team. 2017 was the last time that he won, so would be a historic moment for her to win it all. So good dark horse pick there. One last thing at the World Cross Country Championships, the mixed relay.
Oh yeah, baby.
I am excited for Team USA with Emma Coburn and Heather McLean. And you got Jordan Mann and I think Alec Baston running it. But really, you got to give props to Athletics Australia for convincing their top stars and really stacking this team to try and walk away with a gold medal on home soil. So for that one, I believe they've got Ollie Hoare, Stewie McSwain, Abby Caldwell, Jess Hall, all-star team. Like, I mean, I have to look at some of the other teams to really gauge who's the favorite. I would assume them.
So if you go by 1500 as the
Yeah.
indicator of 2K cross country potential, yes. But one of the things I found was very interesting is a lot of other countries, shout out to my steeple people, like they were going with steeplers on the list, and there's a real argument to be made for what actually is sort of the better indicator of a 2K cross race in terms of potential. Obviously the US, 3 of our 4 racers are known as steeplechasers. Ethiopia has Wale and
That's
Abede,
right.
who was I think second at World,
Third.
Third at Worlds in the steeple. Beatrice Chepkoech, who's the world record holder in the steeple, kind of hasn't quite hit that level in recent years, but she's running the relay for Kenya. So it'll be a fun little debate to see not just the Australian star, see if they can deliver, but also to see that milers versus steeplechasers rivalry play out in the relay. I'm excited to see. And I like Ollie Hoare. We had Stewie on the live show at Worlds last year, so I'm a little biased to those guys from a personal standpoint, but from an event standpoint, I want to see the steeplechasers throw down and show those cocky milers what's what. So my loyalties are going to be real torn, but it'll definitely be a good race, that's for sure.
So that's actually how the World's Cross Country Championships kick off on Friday at 11:30 p.m. Eastern time. You tune it on, and it's going to be the mixed relay, and then you'll have the men's senior race at 2:30 a.m. The junior race is when we covered it a while back. Pretty excited about the U.S. teams in those with Irene Riggs and Leo Young leading both the boys and girls Team USA squads. So lots to be excited about. Late night Friday. I don't know who's going to be on CITIUS Mag social duty for that one.
Well, for all the young people watching who
Way
are
past my bedtime.
That you might have some plans Friday night. All I'm saying is it's on Peacock. You can watch on your phone. Like you're out at the club, like just find a quiet corner, throw it on, like get your friends around, crowd around the phone, obviously, you're having people over, I think, you finish the movie and you're like, good news, we got something even better on tap. We got World Cross. It's definitely it's a 3-day weekend, so like us old people that are might be a little tapped out by watching 2 hours of cross country in the middle of the night. You've got like 3 days to recover before you got to go back to work. Like it's a must watch for sure. So definitely tune in. I know I'll probably be watching, so I'm gonna soft commit to running the CITIUS socials for it, but we'll see.
How do you convince a bartender to turn off NBA All-Star weekend stuff on Friday night for World Cross Country Championships? Go.
What games are
It's
happening
probably
at 11:30 p.m.?
it's probably like the skills challenge or something like that.
No, you're turning off some like trash roundtable, like Stephen A. Smith screaming into like boxes of people all yelling at each other. Like that World Cross is the move, baby. Like I think that's I will, if somebody talk about people tagging us on social with Olipop, if you can convince somebody at the bar that you're at to put World Cross in the screen and take a picture of it, like
we'll retweet
I don't know,
that.
we'll send you a shirt or something like that. That is the challenge for everybody out and about this weekend watching World Cross.
All right, I like that. All right, before we move to our buy or sell segment, we want to quickly shout out our other sponsors. We got Velis Footwear. Velis is an active recovery brand designed to help you restore, revive, and re-energize before and after you train. Their recovery slides have been years in development, and their whole team has created just the most comfortable, supportive, and lightweight active recovery shoe in the world. I throw them on after my workouts, after my tempo runs, and now it's time for you to try them. Get 20% off when you use code CITIUSMAG20. Here are mine. I'm wearing them right now. I always wear them when I podcast. Use code CITIUSMAG20, capital C, capital M in that discount code at Velis recoveryfootwear.com, or I believe it's velisfootwear.com. Double check it. It's in the show notes. And then lastly, Gooder. Say goodbye to active sunglasses that do not stay in place. Upgrade to Gooder's 100% polarized, stylish, and fashionable and affordable active sunglasses. They're $25. It's been really nice out in New York City.
I raced in Gooders this weekend. I had them. I got a bunch of pairs, but I had them on for a local 5K this weekend. They're a solid choice, and they come in a lot of colors. So no matter what your team kit is, you can always find something to match.
Yeah, that's something that I really liked about them, is just sort of like that flexibility. And you can get as many pairs as you want because they're only $25. So visit gooder.com/CITIUS for free shipping. Check out all of their styles. All right, let's move in to our buy or sell segment. David, what are you buying this week?
Oh, I'm making a long-term investment here, baby. I'm buying Drew Hunter 2024 stock because as anyone who reads the lap count knows, Drew's expecting his first baby in April, and as anyone who's followed Nick Willis's career knows, dad strength does magical things on the track. Once you have that kid to bring home the bacon for, you really step up your game performance wise. So, this time next year we're going to be seeing something special from Drew. So I'm buying that future dad stock for sure.
All right, I like that. I am going to be buying Eric Sawinski, but actually it should be other
people should
brands.
buy him.
Yeah, other people should be. You were running the social media accounts during the Millrose games. You said that whatever they're paying Eric Sawinski is not enough, especially after he led however many national records in that race. I asked him beforehand, when I saw him on the pre-meet day, if he started keeping a spreadsheet or something of number of PRs that he's led people to, or national records or world records. I believe he's got 1 or 2 world records because he paced Jakob last year. So he said he doesn't do that yet, but we might have to just, get an intern or something like that to dig in deep and look at all the races that Eric has DNF'd in, because that makes it a little bit easier, and find him in the results and just kind of, let's take some mental note. How many has Eric gotten to 100 PRs? Has he gotten to 10 or 20 national records at this point? So Eric is crushing it right now in that role. But of course, like, he also wants to do his own racing. It's valuable real estate up at the front of that race. The guy is leading for 3 or 4 laps on an indoor track. You should take up some of that real estate to put your brand out there if you're a shoe company. We saw this years ago when Brooks signed Matt Shearer. He was just the master pacer. He was Radish's guy at times. And so, it's an investment. Now and sometimes you can also get that guy for your practices. And I think, like, Eric has been in Boulder and jumping into workouts with other people. Someone throw him a contract, and hopefully during the outdoor season, not only that, like, he's leading a bunch of people to fast times. You're investing in his own career. He might have a shot of making the US 800 meter team.
I was going to say, I think you're thinking too small with shoe companies. Like, let's think about brands known for their reliability. Like, let's get Toyota in here. Like, let's get, Omega watches. Like, this man is a metronome.
I thought it would be like batteries, like Duracell.
Oh yeah,
like
Duracell, Energizer, the bunny. Yeah, like, that is absolutely, like, this is a free marketing campaign.
I'll throw one out there. Everyone talks about no. I was never mind. I was gonna say Roman Swipes is just like a big kit for Eric Sawinski up in the front, but I don't know if they'd allow it. All right, hit me.
Even like, something's like Miller High Life, champagne of beers. Like, Eric Sawinski is the champagne of pacers. Like, I'm writing your ad copy for you right here. Like, come on, get this man some big added dollars.
Maybe we get him I'd love to see him running in the Olipop suit that, like, someone was sitting courtside in, just like the big can. How fast can he pace in that? Because that would be an excellent use of.
It'll block the wind too. Yeah.
Hey, we're onto something here. All right, what are you selling?
Ooh, I'm selling USA's at altitude. I like that. It's nice that Albuquerque has a real commitment to stepping up, but I think it does act as a disincentive to bringing folks somewhere to race. Like, not to be biased here, but, like, give me USA's at BU. Like, that would be fun. Like, let's see some fast track racing, even in a championship race. Give me USA's at, I think anytime Arkansas has hosted NCAA's, they've done a fantastic job. There's, that's a really great track for fast sprint times. I just, there's so much working against US Indoor Championships in terms of getting people there to begin with. Like, adding that just like one extra unnecessary layer, like, just doesn't seem worth it for me. So I'm selling USA's at altitude. Sorry, let's get some sea level racing going down.
That just made me think. I'm so curious why, like, the Armory has never hasn't, at least like in recent years,
they're all booked up. They got like 17,000 meets every weekend. That's probably why.
Yeah, it'd be fun though. Like, New York City embracing a US Indoor Championships, like that's something you can market and like really put out there. And the
Yeah, and
Armory, just
like
like, and with all the high schools and stuff, like people would show up.
and there's an argument. This is maybe a longer conversation in terms of the. Did we lose you?
We're good.
This is maybe a longer conversation in terms of like the format of championships, but saying that the Americans in the Wanamaker Mile are running the U.S. Mile, like indoor mile championships, like that's not a crazy suggestion. I know the British 10K championships are like in the middle of another meet. The idea that just because we have these really strong indoor meets to begin with, like having a single standalone meet that serves as the U.S. Indoor Championships, like what's the point if no one's going to come to it? And so just throwing a little extra prize money, getting a little extra incentive for head-to-head racing, and say, you know what, this is whether it's the Wanamaker Mile, New Balance Indoor Grand Prix, they did a great job, just like slap a couple extra $1,000 in the prize purse and call that the men's 60 national championship. Why not?
I'm sure there's sponsorship conflicts or something like that that you're not considering or something like
I'm sure
that.
I literally came up with this take moments ago. So, I'm sure that I'll hear on Twitter tomorrow why this is a terrible idea
Well,
and can't possibly
actually, yeah, you're gonna
logistically
get one of
happen.
those.
But yeah,
All right.
throw it out there. We'll see what happens.
I am selling Jmar PDX on Twitter. I'm not the only person who's it's just and here's what I'm selling. I'm selling giving him any attention. Because he put out this ridiculous tweet thread about Yard Nagoose.
Don't even talk about it. Don't even say what it is. Just
yeah,
sell it. Yeah.
But the reason I'm selling it is because it's out. He cast this shit out there, and then like people are starting to retweet it. Something like, I don't think Kyle actually did, but there was other people with pretty solid followings did. And all it does is just amplifies it to more and more people. That tweet, I'm looking at it right now because I just was curious to see like how it's doing. 520,000 people have viewed it on Twitter. Over 117 people retweeted it. But it's just sort of like you're amplifying a bunch of BS. And like, just that's maybe at the end of the day what he wants, because it's just so much, it's just more engagement. And like, Kyle has multiple times said like that one of my, I guess, strengths on Twitter is that I sometimes don't give people a response when like they'll tweet at me. And I try to every now and then, but if you're coming at me with some BS stuff or something that's really obvious, like if you're asking me like what is the the US Indoor Championship schedule, like I'm not going to respond to you because like it's out there. It's like you can do that in a Google search. So but with something like this, I'm not going to retweet it and say, hey, this is trash, or like this guy sucks, because then like my 40,000 30,000 followers, we're gonna see it, and then like more people are gonna engage with it and possibly retweet it and also call it trash, and it's only gonna get more eyeballs. And so I'm selling giving this guy any sort of attention. I don't think I've interacted with him on Twitter in a long time. The only good tweet that he's ever put out, and I'll screenshot it because you might delete it after this, is shout out to the team at CITIUS Mag. I was in a meeting this week with running industry executives, and CITIUS was called out as a key media outlet to engage. Your voice is being heard and making an impact. Kudos. That was December 23rd, 2017. So like he recognized really early on that CITIUS is good for his sport. And yeah, but I mean, CITIUS is out on him.
So it takes you agree with that it's fine. And
that was the only, I think maybe something happened right the day after that or something like that. And, he's also anti-soda. Olipop is good for you.
Oh, yeah. Well, and I think like it also, one thing that I will say, not to be all like serious about it, is like, there's some of the stuff he said is like, really toxic and harmful. And I think it is worth folks with credibility in the sport, calling out some really, you know, unfortunate, like negatively impactful stuff that he's said for what it is. Like that to me is worthwhile. But, you know, if he's just going what I always call engagement fishing, like if he's just out there just fishing for engagement, like that is the stuff that's just not worth giving the oxygen to. Like if, you know, if you see something, and just as a general rule on like Twitter, like if you see something and you're like, I know that this is like just stupid, it's not dangerous, it's just dumb, it's like that's the stuff that you just got to scroll right past, you know. Like,
Well, the other part of it too is just sort of like, all right, here's if people do want to engage with this guy or at least call him out on his bullshit, here's what I'll recommend. Do not retweet him. Just screenshot his trash tweet and then attach that as your own tweet and then call it garbage and trash, because, you know, that way people won't actually directly be going to his page and stuff. And so, yeah, he's also got like a long block list of people. Someone like Scott Fauble is on there, and like he texts us every now and then, and he's like, hey, I think that this clown is putting out some trash because I can't see what all these people are calling garbage, and
everyone's mad
everyone's mad. The whole writing community comes together just to call out the BS. But I'm out on just giving him just like just amplifying him. So I'm selling Jmar PDX. So that does it. That was buy or sell. It's maybe like the meanest anyone has ever kind of seen me
his
on.
handle? I don't like you even putting his handle out there. Like, let's
Yeah.
get some censorship over that. But
Yeah, it's the last time
yeah.
he'll get free real estate on this podcast. All right. Inside CITIUS Mag, what else we got going on this week? Well, we debuted our new correspondent, Alicia, out in Lievin. She will be in Birmingham next week. So that's exciting for us. We had English Gardner on the CITIUS Mag podcast this week, a really powerful episode. We shared a clip on our Instagram page that is a lot of people are sharing, a lot of comments from fellow athletes, but also just people, because English opens up about some of the mental health struggles that she has had throughout her career, whether it's depression, anxiety, and just, you know, everything, injuries, dealing with homelessness as a kid. Amazing conversation with her. It was a little short because I actually had to like run to a meeting right afterwards. So I'm due for part 2 where we can really go more in depth with English. English is fantastic. Someone you should be rooting for at all times. And I've been rooting for over a decade since, you know, she was in the Oregon uniform. We've got Aleia Armstrong on Out of the Blocks. I believe that's going to be released in the next day or two. Dana Giordano, More Than Running podcast, I believe, will be coming back with an episode with Emma Coburn soon. David, you had David Ribich on your podcast. The lap count went out this week. A lot of cool stuff, recapping the Millrose games, but then at the same time diving into, you know, the sub 4 minute mile chatter that has been taking place on social media, whether, you know, people should be counting it, is it still special, and all that. What else we got? Trying to think.
What? That's not enough content out there.
We're gonna have boots on the ground in New Mexico. We were supposed to have boots on the ground in Australia, although I don't know if that's going to happen. I think that's it.
Yeah, the only thing I will say is, like, if you know, if you can't convince the bartender to you know, throw World Cross on the bar, but you do have your phone out, like, we've been trying really hard to have like anything that's happening in track and field, we get it to you on Twitter, on Instagram, live, as close to live as possible. So just like, if you're looking for a one-stop shop to follow the sport, we've put a lot of time and effort into being that one-stop shop for you, and to not being, you know, bullshit nonsense takes just for engagement, to being actual substance on social media. So I would hope if you're listening this far into the podcast, you probably already follow us, but, you know, tell your friends, like, hey, you're trying to stay up on what's going on in the track world, give CITIUS a follow, because they're hustling for you. So follow us there, and you won't be disappointed, I think.
Yeah.
I hope.
Who was it? Someone in our group chat did say this week, it was like, it is kind of fun. It was like 9 people having like the Twitter password. And like, that's how, you know, we try and keep people updated on things. But well said, David. On that note, everyone, thanks for listening. We'll be back next week with another episode of This Week in Track and Field. We'll hit you with a couple more interviews over the course of the next couple days. Stay abreast to all of our coverage on the CITIUS Mag YouTube channel. We've got some interviews up there from the mixed zone in Lievin. And if you haven't watched all of our interviews from the Millrose games, there's plenty to consume there as well. So I'm Chris Chavez. That was David Melly. We'll see you guys next week.